Welcome back to the deep dive. There's this paradox of modern life that I think we all feel, but we almost never really talk about it. It's this tension where, on paper, we're objectively killing it. We're hitting professional milestones. We're managing these complex schedules.
The calendar is color-coded.
Exactly. The inbox is, well, maybe not empty, but it's managed. But the cost of all that efficiency is so often paid in private.
It's the classic trade-off, isn't it? We're these incredibly efficient professionals, but that same efficiency often leaves us feeling just, biologically and psychologically depleted when we walk through the front door.
Specifically in the bedroom. And the conversation usually just stops at, oh, I'm just tired, or work is crazy right now.
Right.
But looking at the stack of research we have for today's deep dive saying I'm tired is, well, that's just scratching the surface. It's a massive oversimplification.
It is. It's like saying a car won't start because it's old, when actually someone's popped the hood and, pulled out the spark plugs. What we're looking at today suggests libido isn't just low, it's being actively biologically suppressed by your brain's response to the daily grind.
So we're not just talking about being sleepy. We're talking about a physiological heist. Something is being stolen inside the body.
A heist is the perfect way to describe it. And we have a really diverse stack of sources to back this up. We've got a report on career tension and female desire, a fascinating study on burnout in medical residents.
Which is basically extreme stress in a petri dish.
Totally. Plus physiological research from the University of Texas and some really key sociological data from Swinburne University.
So our mission today is to move past the generic just take a vacation advice. Because, let's be honest, that doesn't fix the Tuesday night problem. We want to get into the mechanics. Why does your body literally steal your sex hormones when you have a deadline? And, weirdly, why is taking out the trash actually scientifically relevant to your sex life?
We have to start with the biology. Before we even get to how you feel about your partner or your relationship, there's a chemical war happening in your adrenal glands. People call it the cortisol steal.
I love that name. It sounds like a bad 90s thriller movie, the cortisol steal.
Yeah.
But it's really a supply chain issue, right?
Exactly. So to get this, we have to look at the HPA axis. That's the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis.
Your body's stress command center.
Precisely. When you're under chronic pressure emails, traffic, money worries, this axis just screams at your adrenal glands to pump out cortisol.
And cortisol is that survival juice, the stress hormone that gets us up and moving.
Right. But here's the catch that most people don't know. Your body needs raw materials to make cortisol. It doesn't just appear out of nowhere. It needs a precursor hormone called pregnenolone.
Okay, let's flag that. Pregnenolone. That's the building block.
It is the mother hormone. But here's the problem. Pregnenolone is also the precursor for your sex hormones. Testosterone, estrogen, progesterone. They all come from that same supply closet.
I see where this is going. It's a resource problem.
It's a resource allocation problem. When your body is in a state of chronic stress, it has to choose. And it will always prioritize survival over reproduction.
It thinks there's a tiger in the room.
Or a quarterly review, which is our modern tiger. So it thinks, we don't need to make a baby right now. We need to survive this. And it diverts that raw material, that pregnenolone, to make cortisol instead. It literally steals the resources meant for your libido to fuel your stress response.
That is wild. So it's not that you don't want to be intimate. It's that your body has reallocated the budget. The factory has stopped making the fun stuff and is just making sandbags for the flood.
It's biological embezzlement. And this ties directly into the nervous system. You have your sympathetic nervous system, which is fight or flight, that gets you through a high-pressure workday.
Right, foot on the gas.
Exactly. But arousal generally requires the parasympathetic nervous system.
The rest and digest system.
Or feed and breed, as they say. Neurologically, it's just really, really hard to be in both states at once. If you are stuck in sympathetic overdrive from work, your body physically cannot switch gears.
It's like trying to parallel park a car while you're still driving 60 miles an hour down the highway.
Yeah, you're going to strip the gears. And here's where the research gets really nuanced and, frankly, a little surprising. We have to be careful. It's not that all stress kills the mood. I know you saw that study from the University of Texas.
I did, yeah. This one threw me for a loop. They used heart rate variability HRV, to measure this. They found something that totally contradicts the idea that you have to be perfectly zen to get aroused.
It's the inverted U curve. It's a classic idea in psychology, but here they applied it to sex. They found that very low sympathetic activation, basically being bored or totally flat, was actually bad for arousal.
So being a total couch potato is not an aphrodisiac. Got it.
Not really, no. But on the other end, very high activation like anxiety, panic, terror, that was also bad. It just shuts the system down.
But the sweet spot was in the middle.
The middle was the sweet spot. A moderate amount of sympathetic activation actually facilitated genital arousal.
So a little bit of excitement or intensity, maybe even a little good stress is actually helpful.
It makes sense when you think about it. Moderate activation increases blood flow. It heightens focus. It wakes the system up. The goal isn't to be a monk in a cave. The goal is to avoid that chronic high-stress zone where the cortisol steal kicks in.
Okay, so we've got the hardware down. Hormones are being stolen. The nervous system is jammed. But we have to talk about the software, the psychology. Because for so many people, the issue isn't just that their hormones are off. It's that their brain is just too full.
This is what we call cognitive intrusion. And while it can affect everyone, the research really highlights this as a massive factor for women.
So you're trying to be in the moment, but your brain is just running a to-do list in the background.
Exactly. Sexual desire needs what psychologists call mental spaciousness. You need room for fantasy, for presence. But work pressure, life logistics, they fill that space with intrusive thoughts. Unfinished reports, did I reply to that email, is the permission slip signed.
Which leads right into the second shift idea from sociologist Arlie Hochschild. You finish your paid work, your first shift, and then you come home to the unpaid work of managing the household.
And that second shift is a proven libido killer. There was this amazing study from Swinburne University on about 300 women. They looked at relationship equity. Who does the chores, who remembers the birthdays, who plans the meals.
And what did the data say? Because I feel like I can guess, but I want the science.
They found that women in relationships with unequal domestic loads reported way lower relationship satisfaction and lower dyadic desire.
Okay, define dyadic for us.
Dyadic desire just means desire for their partner, wanting to be intimate with that specific person.
As opposed to just a general biological drive.
Yeah, precisely. And this is the part of the study that it blew my mind, the inequity at home. It did not impact their solo desire.
Wait, really?
Yes, their biological drive, things like masturbation or private fantasy, that stayed completely intact. The machinery wasn't broken. But the desire for the partner was just suffocated by resentment and the exhaustion of carrying that mental load.
That is a huge distinction. It's not, I don't want sex. It's, I don't want sex with you because I'm exhausted and you're making my life harder.
It's harsh, but that is what the data points to. The study even compared this to same-sex couples who, on the whole, reported more equitable relationships, and they saw fewer of these drop-offs in desire related to fairness.
This actually leads us perfectly into this huge misconception about how desire even works. We have this Hollywood idea that desire is supposed to just hit you like a lightning bolt.
Yes, spontaneous desire. And the data shows that for most people, especially women, that's just not the norm.
Break down the numbers on that.
Okay, so about 75% of men experience spontaneous desire as their main mode. They feel an urge, then they look for a way to fulfill it. But for women, it's only about 15%.
Only 15%. So the vast majority of women are running on a totally different operating system.
A completely different one. About 30% of women, and interestingly, about 5% of men, primarily have what's called responsive desire.
Meaning the desire comes after things get started.
Exactly. Arousal doesn't come first. It emerges in response to intimacy or stimulation. The engine is cold, but if you start driving, it warms up. And another 55% of women experience a mix of both.
So the problem is, because our whole culture is built around spontaneous desire, people with responsive desire often think there's something wrong with them.
They think they have low libido. They think they're broken. But they're not broken, they just require a context of safety and connection for that system to activate. If you wait for lightning to strike, you might wait forever. You have to build the lightning rod.
Which brings us back to that old and I think very controversial Oprah quote, "Taking out the trash is foreplay." I remember people mocking that, saying it made sex transactional.
Right, like I did the dishes, so now you owe me sex, and if it's transactional, it'll absolutely kill the mood.
It's not a vending machine.
No. But the research supports the principle behind it. If you share the load, you reduce that second shift stress, you increase the sense of equity, and you create the safety and mental space that responsive desire needs to flourish.
It's hard to feel responsive desire when you're staring at a sink full of dishes and just feeling resentment.
Impossible!
Yeah.
You can't relax into sensation when you're simmering with anger about the laundry. It's not about buying sex with chores. It's about clearing the deck so desire has a chance to even appear.
Now, I want to pivot to a group that really shows the physical toll of all this. We have a study here on 251 medical residents.
A classic high burnout group. Long hours, high stakes, no sleep. If anyone's going to show the effects, it's them.
So what did they find about burnout and sex?
Well, the gender differences were really stark. For the male residents, personal burnout was a direct independent risk factor for erectile dysfunction.
So for men, the burnout basically hit the plumbing.
It was a mechanical failure, yeah. The hydraulics failed. For the female residents, though, job stress was negatively correlated with physical lubrication and the ability to orgasm. It hit their response cycle. But there was one finding in the study that was a total anomaly. It completely confused me at first.
I think I know which one you mean, the one about children.
Yes. Conventional wisdom and a lot of other studies say that kids create stress, kill sleep, and lower libido. But in this specific group of female medical residents, having more children was associated with easier arousal, lubrication, and orgasm.
That seems completely backward. Why would that be?
The researchers had a really interesting theory. They think that in this high-stress context of medical residency, which is temporary, it's chaotic, the children acted as a proxy for a stable, long-term partnership.
Ah, so the kids were a sign of safety and stability.
Exactly. That domestic stability provided the emotional intimacy and security that seems to be so key for female arousal. In this case, the safety of the relationship actually outweighed the stress of the parenting.
That is fascinating.
Yeah.
It just reinforces that idea that for so many people, emotional security is a potent aphrodisiac, even when you're exhausted.
It does. The study also noted that female surgeons reported higher desire levels than other specialties.
Really. Surgeons, the most stressed group of all.
They think it might just be a personality trait thing. You know, high resilience, high drive. People who self-select into surgery might just have higher energy baselines across the board, including libido. They're just built a little different.
That's wild. Okay, so let's zoom out to the day-to-day. We have a daily diary study from Austria that tracked people for 2 weeks. This really gets into the microdynamics.
This study zoomed right in on the when, and they found that high subjective stress in the moment absolutely kills desire in the moment. And this effect was much stronger for women than for men.
But there was a paradox here, right?
Yeah.
A kind of cruel irony.
The cruelest irony. The study found that while stress tanks your desire for sex, engaging in sexual activity led to lower cortisol levels the next day.
So sex is the stress reliever that stress makes you avoid.
That's it. It's a biological reset button. It floods your brain with oxytocin and dopamine. It lowers cortisol. But the stress prevents you from ever pressing the button. It's a vicious cycle.
And we have to acknowledge, one of our sources from the IOSR journal points this out, that for some women, the stressors aren't just deadlines and dishes. There can be darker dynamics.
Yes, and we can't ignore this part. This source highlighted factors like male dominance, neglecting female feelings, treating sex as a marital duty.
Or even physical factors. I mean, the report mentioned the prevalence of FGM in the specific sample they studied.
Right. When you have physical pain or a history of trauma or a partner who sees sex as their right and your duty, the stress is actually a state of threat. And in those cases, a lack of desire isn't a dysfunction. It's a healthy protective response.
That's a sobering but really necessary perspective. It's not always about hacking your libido. Sometimes it's about fixing the environment.
Absolutely. You cannot biohack your way out of a neglectful or abusive dynamic.
So knowing all this, the cortisol steal, the mental load, responsive desire, how do we move forward? What are the actual pathways out of this trap?
One of the most practical takeaways is the idea of a ritualized transition.
Okay, break that down.
We know the nervous system struggles to switch from sympathetic work mode to parasympathetic intimacy mode. It needs a bridge. You can't just shut your laptop at 5.59 and expect to be ready at 6.8.
You need to send a signal.
You need a signal to tell your brain the tiger is gone. It could be changing your clothes, getting out of the work uniform. It could be a 10-minute walk, a shower, something that physically marks the end of the survival phase of the day.
I like that. It's forcing that gear shift we talked about.
Another pathway is just redefining what intimacy means. The sources suggest shifting from a goal-oriented view, where the only success is orgasm, to a connection-oriented view.
Taking the pressure off.
Yes. If you're stressed, the pressure to perform just adds more stress. It becomes another chore. But if the goal is just skin-to-skin contact or cuddling, it's safer.
And paradoxically, that safety is often what triggers responsive desire in the first place.
Precisely. By removing the goal, you often achieve it anyway.
And finally, we have to talk about the systemic stuff. You can't just breathe your way out of a bad relationship dynamic.
No. Mindfulness apps are great, but they can't fix an unfair distribution of chores. If the root cause is the second shift, the solution isn't an aphrodisiac, it's a negotiation. It's redistributing the load. Real desire often requires real equity.
So to recap this whole deep dive, cortisol is literally stealing the raw materials for your sex hormones. It's a biological heist. The mental load kills desire for your partner because it breeds resentment. And for so many people, desire is responsive. It needs a runway of safety and relaxation to even take off.
And we're all stuck in this catch-22 where stress makes us avoid the one thing, intimacy that could actually lower our stress for tomorrow.
It really reframes the whole conversation. We tend to view sex as something we need energy for, like another task. I have to go to the gym, I have to make dinner, I have to have sex.
Right. But the research suggests that if you can just get over that threshold, sex isn't a drain on the battery, it's a charger.
So the final question for you listening right now is this. How can you structure your life, not just to make time for intimacy, but to create the mental space where it's even possible to want it? Are you trying to cultivate desire in a brain that is still in survival mode? Because until you tell your body the war is over for the day, the libido isn't coming out to play.
You have to signal safety. That's the key.
Thanks for diving in with us. We'll see you next time.